Hello there, and welcome to my channel. My name is Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, I want to talk about a huge liquidity level that is going to be increasingly very relevant for Bitcoin and could potentially show us where the price can be heading over the next week. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe, be sure to hit that like button, and be sure to follow me on X as well. So Bitcoin has had a relatively calm last 24 hours, only up about 1%. If you take a look at the chart TA, what we're seeing here right now is Bitcoin trying to push above that $35,000 resistance level and failing. Because we saw it actually pushed up above this level, and it got all the way up to about almost 36K, and then was sold off, and it came all the way down to almost 34,000. So we're starting to see that the sellers are starting to stack up above this area right here, especially above about 35,500. That's where you're going to find a lot of your sellers. And I do think Bitcoin is going to be range bound within the next week or so, bouncing between these two ranges here at about resistance here at about 35K and at about 34K, while you start to see more sellers step in, because Bitcoin still is very overbought. Currently, we're sitting at 75 RSI on the daily, and if you zoom out and take a look at the weekly, which is more relevant in some cases, you can see that it's actually oversold on the weekly as well, which is something that we haven't seen in quite some time. In fact, not even back when we had this huge run up in March did we actually go oversold on or overbought on the weekly. But you have to go all the way back to the bull market of 2021, the early bull market of 2021. You have to go all the way back to that level just to see anything close to the level of overbought Bitcoin is right now. And I do think that this is a cautionary tale, and we're going to wind up seeing it pull back a little bit as the sellers start to step in, because this is not a bull market. We are not currently in a bull market. We're in kind of more of a kangaroo type of market in which Bitcoin tends to go up and down and sideways. But this does actually seem very nice, especially when you compare it from the long-term charts. We are in a very steady uptrend, and we continue this really nice-looking uptrend here. It's not quite vertical, but I can go ahead and put it in. You guys can see just how nice of an uptrend this has been over the last year. And again, Bitcoin is up well over 100% in the last year. So I think that's very impressive. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that liquidity level I talked about here earlier after we first cover the dollar index, because the dollar index is doing something very interesting right now, and this has big implications for the Bitcoin price. So the dollar index has actually had one of its worst weeks in about 3 or 4 months. In fact, the last time we had a bad week like this was back in July. Now we're starting to see that the dollar index, or the strength of the dollar, is weakening, and as a result, we're starting to see Bitcoin go up. Okay, because usually Bitcoin trades inversely to the dollar index. As the dollar gets weaker and weaker and weaker, Bitcoin tends to be stronger. Okay, so what we're seeing right now is a support level of about 105, and if this support level gives, then man, we're going all the way down here to about 104, maybe even all the way down to 103, and then Bitcoin is going to rip even higher. Okay, so in the long term, that's what I'm talking about. The long term for the dollar index, this looks like the start of a downtrend in the strength of the dollar. So let's go ahead and talk about that liquidity level. So we have here the liquidation heat map from CoinGlass, and if you look at the 24-hour, what you can see is that there is a massive level here at about 34K of this liquidity. Okay, so Bitcoin, the price tends to move towards these liquidation levels in areas with huge liquidity, and if it reaches these levels, what you could wind up seeing is a bunch of longs actually get liquidated. Okay, so the price would go down. Okay, so if we go anywhere near 34K, we are likely to see more selling to the downside, and I do think it's very possible that we wind up seeing 34K sooner than later, within about the next week or so, because as I said before, these liquidity levels act as kind of a magnet for the Bitcoin price. So that's something to keep in mind. I do think that it's going to happen. We're going to see probably here about, it says $22 million worth of these of the long liquidations right down here below that level, because that level is a key level for holding the current uptrend. As I've mentioned before, if we zoom in here, we can actually see that this level right here is a nice round number. Usually, you tend to have these support resistance levels at nice round numbers because of, psychologically speaking, that's just easier for our minds to understand and habit forming. So what we have here right now is anything below this level, we could see another drop down even further if that liquidity level is hit, and maybe even coming back down to 33K in the near term. But again, this would be a very healthy pullback for Bitcoin. This is what I expect. I expect to see a healthy pullback for Bitcoin, and then the next rip higher. That's my expectations for the Bitcoin price over the next week. And next, I want to go ahead and talk about the futures contracts as well, because I think that gives us a good idea of sentiment. Bulls are still long and strong right now. Currently, open interest still remains very depressed. So the number of contracts that are open right now are low compared to where they have been earlier in the year. If we zoom out here and look at the daily, you can see how low these contracts have been. In fact, from a high of the October of 2022 all the way down to where we are right now, we're actually at a significantly lower level. So that what that means is lower volatility in the futures market. But otherwise, the Bitcoin blockchain continues to be healthy. We take a look at our active addresses for Bitcoin, and we can see that over the last month, we're actually having a nice little increase to the number of active addresses. So the blockchain is picking up activity. As the price increases, it does tend to follow the price. So as the price increases, you start to see a large increase in the number of active addresses as well. And if you also take a look at our transaction count showing a very similar uptrend. And again, if you put that next to the price, you can see that the transactions and the number of active addresses tend to increase as people get more active on the blockchain as the price moves higher. Okay, so we're starting to see a large increase. When we zoom out here, we can see just what a huge difference it is after having this large decrease over the last 2 months. Now we're starting to recover a little bit, and we're starting to see more active addresses and transactions as well. You can take a look what the active addresses looks like. We're starting to see that recovery, which is what we want to see in the blockchain itself. Now, if you take a look at our hodler behavior, we can see that the level of long-term hodlers have actually kind of stabilized a little bit. It's at about almost 85% or 84% or so of the current number of long-term hodlers. So basically people who have held Bitcoin for greater than about 139 days, plus or minus 20 days or so. That is still very bullish for Bitcoin, because quite frankly, when these people hold, they don't sell. They're waiting for the next all-time high. They're waiting for after the halving or after the next bull market high in order to sell their positions, if they sell at all. And then the last thing I want to do is go ahead and go through a quick portfolio update. So Binance has a portfolio, and Nansen portfolio tends to track the holdings of that Binance portfolio. And that gives us an idea of what some of the whales are doing for this portfolio, or what whales are doing for the crypto market. And so what we're seeing right now is a large chunk of that currently in Bitcoin, about 31% or so. This is actually increased from the prior couple of months, in which Bitcoin was still a large position, but it wasn't anywhere close to a third of the portfolio, which is what it is right now, which kind of gives you an idea that the number of hodlers is increasing. People are going to Bitcoin. They're buying Bitcoin ahead of the halving, especially ahead of news of a spot ETF being approved. And that also leads to whales buying Bitcoin as well. And I do expect that this amount is going to improve. It's going to increase as we get closer to that halving. Okay, so they still have a significant amount in USDT, the stable coin, here at about 28%, and also a significant amount in others as well. And then for reference, also almost 10% in Ethereum. The last thing I want to talk about is what's going on for the week in the economic calendar. So this week, there's not a lot going on. We have a number of Fed speakers on Monday and on Tuesday as well. And Wednesday, we have more Fed speakers. And then Thursday, we have Jerome Powell, who's giving a panel as well, okay, on Thursday. Friday is a holiday, right? So there's not going to be any sort of market activity apart from crypto on Friday, okay? So that's all I've got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think. And if there's something you want me to cover, leave a comment below, and I will catch you guys in the next video.